Live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studios in the great state of New Hampshire and the Gurkha Cigar Studios in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Kevin Acuff.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTobacco.com, and I am joined once again by my good friend, Mr. Kevin Acuff from fabulous Las Vegas. Kevin, how are you?
Matthew, greetings from Las Vegas. How are things on the East Coast, my friend?
Getting warm. To be honest with you, it's been like mid to high. I think yesterday. I think we touched high 50s today and yesterday.
Well, that is warm for you. I mean,
Yeah.
We're only about 10 degrees warmer here in the high desert.
That's like your winter. Because I remember it being there in January, and January is, I mean, at night it gets cold, but even during the day, it's like, what, 55, 65? It's like a good range for like the average daytime.
In January, it gets into the 40s. Like, it can get down into the 30s to 40s. It's like, the frozen tundra in Siberia. It's almost too cold for life to exist.
It's funny because a lot of people, like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people think, like, because of the summers there, that it's like, oh, it's Vegas, like, it's just hot all the time. And it's like, no, it does get cold there. It gets very hot, but it does get cold.
It snows. We've actually had snow this year.
And
Crazy.
If you understand the science of how a desert works, it actually makes sense. That is, just as hot as it gets, it does get equally as cold. So,
and we're in the high desert too, so we're almost 3,000 feet in elevation, so that makes a big difference. There's a huge difference between here and I was just down in Phoenix last week, and it's 10 degrees warmer down there, and it consistently stays, but it's lower elevation, and it's more desert than here.
Right. Yeah. No. It's an interesting. It's an interesting area, weather-wise. But anyway, we have a guest with us tonight, and he needs no introduction. He's done that plenty of times himself. Fresh off of another marvelous pro cigar festival in the Dominican Republic, which he capped off with his signature auctioning skills, and then flew directly after said auction to West Palm Beach. Is that where it is? For the Great Smoke, and hosted that show. So without further ado, he's a stud. He's a fucking stud, and he's here with us.
Stud.
He's here with us tonight. Michael Herklots. Look at him, so handsome.
What's up, fellas?
How are you?
What is going on, Michael?
I'm doing great, man. Everything is great. It's nice to be back home and, catching up on life in New Jersey, man.
How's it feel to be back in the cold?
Well, I'm like you. It was like 60 degrees today.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot. You're not too far from me.
All right, nice.
Are you in Jersey or New York?
Jersey.
Yeah, you're in Jersey. That's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. And you're a little bit more south than us, so just a little bit closer.
Yeah, it was nice. A beautiful day.
So it's like
but that's all right.
It's like his evenings in the DR.
Yeah, actually beautiful in the DR too. It was the night before, the day I got there. It was like high 80s, low 90s, and then it rained that night and it dropped to like 70s. It was just beautiful. It was a perfect trip.
I was gonna say, yeah, that is nice for the DR, especially when you get a little bit of the heat off, but it's still warm and it's nice. That is nice, yeah.
Yeah, upper 70s.
Blazing,
awesome down there.
Blazing in the fields is not fun.
Yeah.
But this was just perfect. Really, it was so nice. It was nice to be in the fields. It was nice in the factory. The sun was hot, but it wasn't like oppressive. It was terrific, and we had a full sold out festival once again. It was great.
Yeah,
and then off to the Great Smoke, like you mentioned.
Yeah, you had. I want to use the word marathon, but I don't know if it's right, but yeah, it was kind of like a marathon. I mean, you did the whole festival. You know, really, you were involved in multiple, but then
Yeah.
you do the gala, you do the auctioning and all of that too, which is really awesome.
Yeah, it was. Listen, we broke a monster record last year. We broke a record with $440,000 raised. I really,
Oh wow.
I
That's a
did
lot.
not. I was skeptical whether we were going to be able to top that this year, but you know, when you fill a room full of grateful people who have had that kind of experience in the country for 5 days, and then you tell them that all we need from you is a little generosity, and you will get the most incredible gifts as a consequence of that generosity through the auction. You know, we did it again and we raised over 530,000. First time we broke $500,000. It was awesome. The
That
president
is
was there.
awesome.
Yeah, I heard you called the president bro. A bird
Well,
told me that.
that's kind of funny. So we
And
were in
and
a
you didn't
very,
know who he was.
well, also funny. We were in a very tight window, and the auction went a little late because the president came, and you know, there were a few other things that just kind of like got things delayed, and I was really feeling pressure, so I was taking a little longer with the lots, and so anyway, uh, the auction went a little later, and I was flying that night, and so it was just getting tight, and so I said, you know what? I got to get out of here. I can't say hello. I can't stop for pictures. Like I just have to go and get out of here. And so we were racing out of the place. The car was waiting outside, and you know, I mean, it's like it's such an it's so the energy is so high after that auction. So like people are jumping over and jumping on top of me and giving me hugs and like, you know, snapping pictures, and it was so great, you know. And so I was everyone like, you know, it was my kids call it the dad slap. You do the bro five with the double back slap, and you know that's how you say hi to people. So that's what I was doing, like running out of this event, and just almost at the door, somebody pulled my arm, my shoulder, and so I kind of spun around, and it was like, you know, it was a very formal event, so it was like another Dominican guy in a suit, and he was like, "Hey, really nice job," and so I fived him, and I did the double back slap, and I was like, "Hey, thanks, bro. See you next year," and like kind of like punched him in the shoulder and ran out the door. And we jumped in the car, and I was traveling with the one and only Will Cooper,
Mm-hmm.
and so we jump in the car, and he's hysterical, and I was like, "Who's that guy?" And he was like, "That was the fucking president. You just fived, and you called him bro." I was like, "Well, you know, that's a story for him to remember too, I guess. Then what am I gonna do?"
Michael's like, yeah,
It was something else.
we're good like that. You know, we go way back.
I'm
Wow.
so
But
embarrassed.
like,
Like I was so
you know
prepared
what
to
though?
like say something meaningful to this guy. Terrible.
Coop doesn't have much to stand on though, because I mean the face that he made when he shook his hand. I mean, it looked like a teenage boy seeing his first booby.
It really did. I mean,
Dude,
that
he
was
sent me that
funny.
video, and I
that
was like,
was
this is
awesome.
being saved forever.
I
I
think
was
he might have made
crying
a little
watching that.
mess.
Yeah,
Yep.
I can't. I mean, you can't quit watching it.
But it was so good, man. It was just so good. It was so good. And then to, you know, I mean, it was not a night of restful sleep, obviously. But, you know, I probably slept a hard 4 hours and then jumped up, got in an Uber, went to the fairgrounds. I walked in by 9:30. And when you walk in that hall when it's empty, it's so massive. And you see all the tables and all the vendors set up, and you know what's coming. And it's like, you just can't believe what is about to happen, you know, at the Great Smoke. And then, sure as hell, at noon, those VIP doors open, and I just posted a video today. You just see like all these grown adults speed walking, because no one runs because they're civilized. But if you've ever seen those like speed walking contests, it's a bunch of adults like speed walking, not to look so excited, but to get like ace tables front of stage. And then after an hour, then the Gen Pop comes in. And I mean, bro, it was easily guests with a couple companions was over 2,000. Then you add the vendors, the crew, the staff. It was probably 2,300, something like that, 2,400 in the room. Then you add the virtual on top of that, and it was just awesome, man. It was awesome. We had great interviews. Um, they're gonna repost it because I know the feed was a little glitchy, so they're gonna repost the whole thing from the hard drive. But I would encourage anyone who didn't get to follow along live, or even if you did, watch it again and see what you missed, because it was just incredible.
Yeah, I was really sad to miss it this year. I had a work thing that popped up about 6 weeks ago that took precedence over being able to go to Florida. So that was a tough phone call to have to make to tell Abe that I wasn't going to be there. But
make sure you go back and watch it.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to watch and see.
It's nice to be with you guys. Cheers.
You as well. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers, cheers. It's a red wine kind of night. We all went red. Which is always, it's my favorite. I don't drink a lot of white, to be honest. I enjoy white, but I don't drink a lot of white. I mostly drink reds. It's my cup
drink
of
whatever's
tea.
Close and open.
Yeah, that's a good one to have, too. Well, let's talk about what we're smoking tonight, and then we'll kind of get into the rest of it. Our cigars are once again brought to you by the number 2 guyscigars.com. That's right, the number 2 guyscigars.com. You can find all of the Ferio Tego cigars, including the heritage brands of Timeless and Metropolitan, at the number 2 guyscigars.com. I wanted to start with Michael because obviously he's our guest, but I think, are you guys smoking the same cigar? I can't remember.
Nope.
No. Michael, what are you smoking?
I am smoking a 2022 Ferio Tego Generoso.
Great cigar.
Yummy, yummy.
Great cigar. One of the best cigars you've ever made.
Thank you. Have you had the 23?
No, not the 23. I had the first two, though.
You need to get the 23.
Okay.
23 is a little closer to 21, a little more aggressive, a little more spice, a little more oomph. The 22 I pulled back a little on, and I don't regret it, but 23 I went back closer to the original style. And so 23 for me with wine is a little aggressive. The 22 is an easier match.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. If I had some, I would have smoked, but it's funny. I thought I had a whole handful of Sumas and some other Ferio Tegos, and I could not find them. And I'm like, I know I had them, but I'll talk about what I'm smoking in a second. Kevin, what do you got?
Well, I know you sent a bunch to Mitchell, so that's probably where they went.
Maybe, but I thought I still had some after that. But anyway.
So I am smoking the Suma.
Yes.
Which, I had...
Barb and I were Tobacco top 25, if I recall.
Most definitely.
It was close to the top, yeah.
It was closer to the top.
Was it number 4, number 5? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I was going to say 5.
But it was up. It was up there. Yeah, it was high. It was high on that list.
It's sad that I actually don't have that, but it was one of the higher rated cigars that I reviewed last year. And as far as the wine pairing goes, Barbara and I were I've said the story before, we're in Ohio and saw that Michael was having a event, so we went and got introduced to the Pinot Noir. And Barb and I, neither one of us were really wine people before that event, and the Pinot and this cigar goes so well together. We literally instantly became wine people overnight.
I love it. By the way, I do events all over the country, right? I love doing events in new places and meeting new people. But to have that element of surprise when someone walks in a place that you don't expect to see them, it's such an exciting moment. And when you guys walked in, it was just it made my night. It was so terrific.
Oh, it was so awesome. He just looks at me. He's like, "What the fuck are you guys doing here?"
That's the way it goes sometimes, you know?
But it was great. Yeah, the element of surprise was awesome, and I mean, you made us feel equally as welcome, and the comfort factor becomes so good at that point.
That was great.
I remember
And
that
Matthew,
night too.
what little gem of history are you smoking there?
Ha 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 ha! I'm so glad you asked. You might recognize this from days when your hair was a little longer and you wore nicer suits. This is. I'm just kidding. This is a Nat Sherman Timeless, with the old style band on it.
Now,
That
is there a red bottom to it, or is it
yes,
just the yellow?
it's
Is the
there's
red is the red connected,
yeah, it's all
or is
one
it a
band.
second?
No, it's
It's
all
all
one
one
band.
band.
Yep.
But it says the words Nat Sherman, or it says timeless, or it
It
says
says
time.
Nat Sherman.
Yeah, so that is if it's connected, the red is connected to the main band, and that
Yep.
is 20, like 15, 16 production. So
Damn.
that's got almost 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and it tastes like it too. This is really, I've had this cigar sitting. I have a smaller box humidor that I reserve for cigars that are no longer in production, especially from companies that are no longer around. It's like my very special stash of like you cannot replace this. If it's destroyed, that it's gone. So,
Yeah.
um, I was looking for my Ferio Tego stuff, like the Ferio Tego, like actual cigar, like the lines. And I couldn't find. I was like, it's driving me nuts. I couldn't find them. I could have sworn I had a handful of a whole assortment. And I said I'm gonna have to go with some other stuff. And I grabbed some Timeless. I grabbed the Timeless Supreme, a newer one. And then I said, something, Mike's coming on, and I wanted to smoke something special. So I know that this is from the previous time, but it's
It's still my work, man.
still your work, and
Yeah.
it's a very special cigar. And I said tonight's the night. I'm smoking it tonight.
And it's, what I love about the fact that you're smoking something old is it also kind of plays into the wine conversation. Cigars, even though they're non-vintage, so obviously the intention is to keep them the same, there is a capacity for favorable development over time. And it obviously depends on what the cigar is to determine whether it has the capacity to change favorably. But that blend, excuse me, is such a rich, even though it's elegant, it's rich, it's got body. And so that body and complexity really is what allows it to continue to develop nuance while still preserving structure over almost 10 years. I mean, 10 years is a serious amount of time.
Especially for a cigar, yeah. Yeah,
That's great.
I thought I had two of them. I had this one, and then I think I might have had a Torpedo or a Bellicoso, I want to say. I might have smoked it. I don't remember seeing it. I have to look again. But I had like two of them, and I got them. It's funny. I actually got them from Kurt Kendall. I bought them at Twins years ago, and I remember I got down to like the last few, and I said I'm gonna put these away, and it's just been sitting in there for like the last couple of years. And like I said, tonight I saw it, and I said, you know what? Tonight's the night. We're gonna smoke this. I'm gonna smoke it with you. And
I'm a big fan. You have to smoke your special stuff. This. If you have no intention of smoking it and it's purely meant to have as a collection that you want to look at, that's one thing. I have some of those cigars too that I just want to look at. I will never smoke them because they mean more to me owning them than they do smoking them. But I believe, just like wine or booze, we make them to enjoy them. And especially when you
Mhm.
invest the time that you have into making it a unique experience, there's no way to appreciate how unique it is unless you just cut it, light it, fire it up, and just see. And we save things for special occasions, but I'm so glad you made tonight the special occasion. That's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you always, you don't need a truly unique night sometimes. It's just sometimes the night just has to be with the right people and the right setting, and you make it a special moment. So that's what it is tonight.
I love it.
What a perfect opportunity to dig that one out too. I have the collection kind of like you. It's the out of production stuff or the out of business cigars, and it's just you look in there and there's one or two, and it's just, man, I know it's good, but it's like it's the last one. I don't know if I'm ever going to get another one. Do I want to smoke it?
Them, damn it.
I'm getting there. I'm getting a lot better about that, to where I just kill the unicorn, enjoy the experience, so that way I can join the ranks of the few people that actually got to smoke and enjoy one of those. So
yeah,
I'm learning.
I've had a lot of special occasions, and I've still got a humidor full of stuff, which means I'm not smoking them on the special occasions like I intended. So enough is enough. Cut them, light them, burn them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Kevin. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. We are cutting and lighting our cigars with our favorite. That's right, our favorite accessories. I think this one just ran out of gas. I forgot to check it before the show. That's on me. But we are using SD Dupont. That's right, featuring the Biggie lighter, the flat flame lighter. That's kind of running out of fuel there. I know. I apologize. But badass stuff. I mean, it's quality. You get what you pay for. It'll last you a lifetime. The flat flames, look, if you've been watching the show every week, you'll know how we feel about it. It's the closest thing to a soft flame you can get out of a torch. It lights really well. Always lights on the first click, as well as their cutters. I mean, their cutters are some of the fastest, sharpest cutters I've ever used. Never any fuck-ups with them. They always cut clean right through. I mean, as long as you know how to use one, I should say. But, they do cut clean, and they cut great. They're super sharp. I've had a lot of great cutters in my time, that were either inexpensive, expensive, high-end, low-end. That some of them were great. Some of them were fantastic. But this one truly hits it the best for me. I mean, it cuts perfect every time. So don't forget to check out ST DuPont Accessories. Shake up the legacy. Yeah, let's get more into the comments are really taking off here. Let's get more into the wine. Now, I don't know if we talked about what we're drinking. Mike, I'll let you go first again, and then Kevin, and then I will round us out at the end.
I'm drinking a 2019 Bordeaux blend. So typical Bordeaux blend is Cabernet plus. There's lots of different grapes that can go along with Cab, but you see red blends in California and other places. But Bordeaux blend, like Super Tuscans, it's a balanced, fruit forward, but still kind of old world tempered alcohol. Delish.
And Kevin, what do you got over there in the middle?
So I have a 2022 Pinot Porta Reserve from Chile.
Oh, nice.
And I know when we smoked Sumas with Michael in Ohio, there was a Pinot from Chile, and I believe there was another from Argentina. And we actually do taste a difference in the Central American Pinots versus the California Pinots. It's a distinct difference.
You bet.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
just like Corojo from Honduras or Corojo from Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
You can detect that there are similarities, but then clearly they are very different.
It's all about the soil, isn't that what they always say? It's all about the soil.
It's about the soil. It's about the sunlight. It's about the rain. It's about the grower. All those things.
It almost sounds like we're talking about tobacco.
Cigar. It does.
It's the same thing, man.
It is. It's so funny. I'm drinking a 2021 Camus Cab from Napa Valley. This is a pretty popular one. I think you guys probably both know that one. Mike, I know you know that one.
Yep, that's a good one.
You said that's 2021?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's the latest release vintage.
Yeah, it's a bottle that I just picked up for Nicole, and it was open, and she said, "Oh, drink that one," and I said, "All right." So I grabbed this, and It's look, if you know Camus, I mean, you know, it's delicious. It's very smooth. Um, this one's also been open for a few days, so it's definitely had a chance to breathe and decant a little bit. It's just, I mean, I'm telling you, it's like drinking just grape juice. I mean, you get fucked up pretty easy on this. It's good.
What's the
It's
alcohol?
good.
I
It
mean,
goes down
it's got
so.
to be north of 14%, right?
Uh,
14 and a half?
it don't taste like it, but I feel like you're right. Is it? It's got to be less. 14.6. 14.6. It look, it's a delicious wine. I don't
It
think
is a delicious wine.
I don't think I've run into anyone who hasn't liked it. I you know, I've had a lot of wines myself. I don't consider myself a wine connoisseur or a sommelier, obviously. Um, I've never had any formal education or training in wine, but I've drank enough wine over the years, and I know a lot of people who enjoy wine, like Carney. You know, Carney's another. He's a close friend of mine. He's really into wine. You know, I've picked up some stuff from him. My grandfather was also a huge wine drinker, and he
A
used
lot of
to.
people don't think about wine as a cigar accompaniment. Obviously, you think of wine and food, or you think of just having a glass of wine, but it's so easy to just defer to spirits when you're having a cigar because it's so conventional.
Hmm.
Um, and there's no, I love spirits and I love cocktails, but for me, wine has an ability to create more dialogue and have a better pairing experience versus my friend Carl Peace's wine, which we call Kentucky wine, otherwise known as bourbon. But I love bourbon and I love rum and I love spirits, but the higher the alcohol, the more ferocity it has, and the less ability it has to create dialogue. So if you take a puff of a cigar and then you take a sip of bourbon, you are more than likely, particularly if it's neat, you are replacing the flavor of the cigar with the bourbon. Now you can
Hmm.
layer the flavor of the cigar above the bourbon once again, but then a sip will generally dominate the palate. With wine, just like you do with food, each bite and each sip is creating layers where some of the residual flavor of the first remains. And I really like that kind of sense of stacking flavors and creating more complexity. And Carney and I have had a lot of wine together and smoked a lot of cigars together. Pete Johnson also, Dion. It's there's a certain time and place for doing wine and cigars, you know, and so I'm really glad that we decided to do it tonight.
Yeah, me too. Look, it's something that we've talked. I mean, you and I, when we've been together, I've talked about it, and it's always like, yeah, man, let's do it, let's set it up, and you know, and I'm like, no, we're gonna do this, and I remember reaching out and I was like, hey, we're gonna do a wine show. I want you to come on. We're gonna talk about wine. We'll talk about some cigars, obviously, but I want to talk about wine because you know, we've been trying to do some different shows this year. We did a whole show on rum. We've done bourbon episodes, and I'm like, we got to do a wine. And I wanted to bring in someone, you know, who really knows wine really well, and you know, there's a lot of people I could have asked, but I've also a lot of those same people have told me that they've done wine tastings with you, and they're like, you know, Mike's one of the best. So I said, you know what, Mike's gonna be the guy, and here we are, and I'm glad we're here. So I grabbed a great cigar, I got a good wine. We're here, we're doing it. I'm very excited to be here. Um, you know,
And
and like
there are so many parallels between wine,
there
but
are
also I take so much inspiration from wine with Ferio Tego. I mean, the best example of that is Elegancia and Generoso.
right.
It is entirely inspired by wine. The idea that a winemaker can make both a red and a white, and even though they are profoundly and obviously different from one another, um, they share a common signature or a common style. There's something that is the unique expression of the winemaker that comes out regardless of red or white, Cabernet, Pinot Noir, or Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, you know? And that is exactly what Elegancia and Generoso are. Elegancia was intended to be my white, to be more buttery and round and creamy, but to still have a very present and full body, as many Chardonnays do. And then at the same time, create a red, or the Generoso, that is more dominant and more present and um, more popular, right? Like most people, like you said, you drink a lot more reds than white. Um, I think people tend to smoke cigars, at least today, that skew a little earthier, that skew a little richer, more Nicaraguan influence. And but what I love is when I have a glass of white that makes me say, "Oh man, I need to drink more white wine." That's what Elegancia is for a shade wrap cigar.
Okay.
I want it to remind you that shade wrap cigars do not have to be light in body. They don't have to lack complexity. Um, they can be as present and big and mouth-fillingly full as a Nicaraguan Puro, just have a completely different spectrum of flavor. And so to me, that's what Elegancia is. And Generoso obviously skews more New World and forward and rich and darker style flavors. But then we only make them once a year, just like wine. Now, the difference, of course, is wine is a vintage, which means everything in the bottle is the expression of whatever God gave them that year in the vineyard. That's not the case with our cigars. However, unlike core blends like Suma or Timeless Prestige, where every production we make to replicate the very last production to make sure that every year or every production is identical in experience, with Elegancia and Generoso specifically, I'm not tasting the last production to keep it the same. And a winemaker doesn't either. In fact, I asked a couple winemaker buddies, when they're making the next vintage, are they tasting it against prior vintages? And they said no, because every year is the expression of Chardonnay, for example, or the expression of Cabernet, and they're just making the best Chardonnay or Cabernet they can make using the same fruit from the same place. So by taking that same approach, it's almost like I'm going into the studio and I'm re-recording the same song with a different band, and we're trying to stay as close as we can to the original, but we are going to do another take. Whereas with core, we're trying to replicate, to almost reissue the album again without any noticeable change whatsoever. And that's a significant difference. So in the wine world, the equivalent would be non-vintage wine, which is generally less popular and typically lower price and lower quality, although not always. But a better example would be champagne, where there are vintage champagnes, but by and large, what we drink in the champagne world is non-vintage. And so they are constantly producing champagne using different vintages to create exactly the same style, regardless of the fluctuations in vintage. That is much more like core premium cigars like Suma or Timeless, for example.
Yeah, in fact, Mitchell asked a question here. Ask Herklots, hashtag Ask Herklots, do vineyards age wine as long as spirits? Are vintages aged in the bottle at the winery and held onto until release date, or aged outside of the bottle that entire time until release?
Yes. Okay.
So I'm like, wait, yes,
sure. Yes.
So first things first, it depends on where the vineyard is located and what wine we're talking about. So for example, let's use Napa Valley Cabernet. As a general rule, they follow Bordeaux's model, which is 3 years of aging before it's released, which is why you're drinking the 2021 Camus, even though it's 2024. And that's typical for places in Italy. I'm trying to remember if Chianti follows that or not, but I believe Bordeaux follows that same rule. So 3 years. Now, depending on where it's from, you have different rules of how long in barrel and how long in bottle. And you can age both ways with wine. You can age in barrel and you can age in bottle. And depending on the origin, there are different laws that dictate aging and releasing. And most of those are specifically laws associated with reds. You would not generally drink, you wouldn't release a 3-year-old rosé from Provence as a general rule, or you wouldn't release a 3-year-old Pinot Grigio from Italy as a general rule, because those wines are intended to drink in a new vintage because they're light and they're crisp and they're clean and they're ready to go. But for some of the other bigger, bolder reds, there are governing rules that tell you what to do. On the bourbon side, or on the spirit side, there are also aging, obviously, barrel aging, and different aging techniques will yield you different results. So you can age in oak, you can do Solera aging, you can do all these different agings. But as I understand it, and I'm not an expert, once it is bottled, there is very little change in development to a distilled spirit, the way there is with wine. Wine does change in a bottle, much like cigars change in a humidor over time. Whereas spirits, you can open a bottle of Jack Daniels that's 10 years old and open a bottle of Jack Daniels that's 1 year old, and assuming the formula is the same, they should be precisely the same.
Yeah, that's
that
very
explains
interesting.
a lot.
Yeah, it does. I was gonna say I've never really thought about it, to be honest. I've always just drank shit and then just kind of like but it's a very interesting thought process and point that you made there, Michael. And I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mean, with spirits, I mean, you're talking higher alcohol content. It's a different kind of recipe versus wine with the grapes. It's I guess I can kind of follow along and understand. But it's true though. As much as I haven't really thought about it, it's true. Like wine does change in the bottle. And it's funny,
And it's very emotional too, like a cigar. A spirit, you can put it in the freezer, leave it in your car, throw it in a basement, bury it in your backyard. It's good. I mean, it's a pretty stable,
It's
pretty
true.
stable spirit.
Yeah.
Whereas with wine, if that bottle gets hot, that wine is done. If the cork dries out such that it restricts and oxygen gets in, that wine is done. So, or even if the wine is perfectly sound, but the cork itself happens to be diseased, the wine is toast. So wine is so much more emotional, like cigars, where if you expose it to high humidity, low humidity, high humidity, low humidity, or you expose it to a certain amount of high temperature or low temperature, that that fluctuation will result in a different experience when you light that cigar. And you can test it. You can take a cigar and age it at 70%, and then take another cigar and stick it in your refrigerator with some humidity and see the difference in 2 years. As a general rule, both wine and cigars change faster the warmer they are, and they change slower the colder they are. So if you really like the way a cigar is smoking, of course you still need the appropriate levels of humidity, but if you keep that cigar colder, you will experience less change over the same period of time, which is why most of the aging rooms for those factories that use aging rooms are storing in the aging room at a much cooler temperature than the conventional 65 to 70 degrees that we use at home. And that colder temperature preserves the original experience of the blend for a longer period of time in the aging room. So when they get banded and boxed and shipped, they're as close to the last as possible.
Wow, I actually did not know that. And I feel like that's something I actually should have known about cigars. So definitely thank you for sharing, Michael.
That's why we brought him here. You know, I mean, he's got quite the knowledge, including apparently Blessed Man from Dupont is here, or Coles of London, I should say, but both. Les Man is here and says Michael's knowledge and sorry, I don't know why this got covered by my thing. Michael's knowledge and collection of vintage St. Dupont lighters is as impressive as his knowledge / collection of vintage wine. So I
actually think my collection of Dupont is probably more impressive than my collection of wine at this point.
Do you have that many pieces?
Oh yeah, bro.
Wow. I didn't know that about you.
It was, let me tell you, when I was 19, so I started enjoying cigars when I was 18 in Boston. And I got my first job at 19. And after my first year, my boss said, I can take an accessory or I can take cash.
This was at Gloucester Street Cigars, right?
No, before that. It was at the Humidor, which was a kiosk in the Prudential Center Mall.
Ah, okay.
But I had sold a lot. I mean, he was proud of the job I did. He said, you can pick, you have $1,000 or $800, something like that, which was a ton of money in 1999. And so do you want the cash or do you want an accessory? And I was so broke, but I knew I wanted a Dupont. And so I said, I'll take the accessory. And I got a Dupont Line 2 black and gold cigar band lighter. And that was it. I mean, I don't know. I've probably got 30 Line 2s.
Wow.
Do you still collect? Do you collect vintage ones? Do you grab new ones that are limited that come out? Like what?
I've just been around so long that they're fucking vintage now. That's the problem when you've been around 25 years.
Well, that's true.
But this one, that's blue and gold.
That's a nice one. Yeah.
Tough to see, but
with the Chinese lacquer. Yeah, it's just beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
So beautiful. Wow.
I mean, with DuPont stuff, I mean, I can totally see where he's coming from, because once you have one, then you want another one, and then you want another one, and then you want another one.
It's funny. My buddy just commented, "Is that the one you lost?" Yes, it's the only lighter I've ever lost. Only Dupont I've ever lost.
And you found it?
No, not that one.
Oh.
He's asking. I think he's talking about the one I got in college, which was the black and gold cigar band Line 2. That one I lost at Penn Station.
Ah, that's
no.
Too bad.
Yep. True story.
That's too bad.
But these things happen.
Yeah. Mitchell's on fire tonight. He's got a lot going on here. Ask
he
Herklots.
Is on fire.
Hashtag Ask Herklots. Are people snobby about single grape varietals versus blends in the wine world, like they are with single malt Scotch versus blended Scotch?
There's an equal level of snobbery. It's just about different things. So
interesting.
You have single varietal, you have single vintage, you have single, all kinds of single things. But wine in and of itself is single vintage, right? If you're looking at the spirit side, when you're talking about single malt, for example, versus blended whiskey has this kind of negative, more pedestrian connotation that it's somehow less connoisseur or less respectable than single malt. I don't think it is fair to do any level of blanket assessment of anything unless you taste it. So are there single malts that are better than some blends? Certainly. But if you love blended whiskeys, and if you think about what a blend really means, you're talking about more flavor, more color, more ingredients, right? Like, do you want just a cooked steak, or do you want the cooked steak with salt and pepper? Because if you want to be a purist, then you're going to criticize the merit of just meat. There is some benefit to adding, and so I think there are, in the wine world especially, some of the greatest, most respected wines in the world must be blends in order to be considered eligible for what they are. Right? Bordeaux must be a blend to be considered Bordeaux. Uh, Super Tuscans, the same thing. They are a blend. Typical Rhone blends are a set relationship of Grenache, Syrah. These specific grapes that must be included to be considered. So the notion of blend is not poo-pooed in the way that blended whiskey, for example, is. But there are plenty of things that people get, you know, uh, hoity-toity about. Um, but generally, I find that level of criticism prior to experience um, is actually evidence of lack of experience and somebody learning something and repeating it rather than having the confidence to taste it and defend why it's better.
Do you experience that in this in wine, cigars, whiskey, everything, where people, they talk the talk, but have absolutely zero experience to back it up. They just, well, so and so said this, so it's got to be true. I totally
Well, of
understand where you're
course,
coming from in that point.
of course, people listen. We experienced it with Ferio Tego prior to launch. There was a there was judgment about Elegancia and Generoso be, only on the press release before it even came to market. And Matt and I had this very specific conversation now almost 3 years ago, 27, 29 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
uh, where people were criticizing the project, suggesting it wasn't worth it, but having never experienced it. That that to me is a very unfortunate way to approach a hobby. We need to approach hobbies with an open mind and a real desire to experience and to see if there's something new there. And then you can ask yourself if it's worth it. But we were certainly up against that as a new cigar brand, and I feel very fortunate to point out that I think we're over that hump. I think people have found that our cigars are doing what we said they would do, and certainly when you look at the value proposition of the products we make, and you look at the way they perform, and you look at the experience of them, and then you look at cigars 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 times the price. Ferio Tego over delivers on experience
Mm-hmm.
to value over many of those cigars. That's not to say that we're inexpensive, especially on Ferio Tego specifically, Elegancia Generoso and Suma. $23 is not inexpensive. 17 to 22 is not inexpensive for Suma. However, I would put any of those three blends and the experience from purchasing, opening the box, cutting, lighting, and tasting. I would put any of those three experiences up against any cigar at 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 times the price. And I would ask to be judged not just on a blind experience, but when you go non-blind, I think we over deliver. And that's really ultimately where these biases come into play. The only time someone criticizes a blended whiskey over a single malt is if they know going into it, because they think they're flexing in the right direction. No different than with a cigar. If I hand you a cigar with nothing on it, you're grateful for the gesture and you'll cut it, light it, and smoke it. But it only means to you what the experience of cutting, lighting, and smoking it is. But there's so much more to it with the band on, because you understand the pedigree, you understand the brand, you understand the value. the minute it has a band that you recognize, that you value or treasure, it holds a different value, and no different than blended whiskey versus single malt, as Metro recommended.
Yeah, it's true.
Michael, you and I had. Oh, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just saying. I had one small little thing, Kevin. You can say everything you want to say. I like how you brought up. Look, you brought up the pricing thing, which, to me, I feel like, does it still bother you? You still bring it up all these years later.
No, it doesn't bother me at all, because I think it's a great example of the types of challenges that you face as a creator or as an artist. There's always going to be inherent bias, and you have to. That's added pressure to make sure you over deliver.
And it's true, because I would say, your cigars perform very well. Obviously, they're in the top 5 this year. But you're right. I mean, they've always performed pretty well. The price point's been pretty good with what you get out of it. And there are brands out there who are charging 5 times the price for cigars that are nowhere near as good. And they come and they go. Some of them are still around, but the point is, yeah. I mean, you gotta know what you're doing. So.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to say. Michael, when we were in Ohio, you and I kind of had that same conversation where the pricing conversation came up at the release and whatnot, and it was kind of a leap of faith by the brand to come out with that. But I mean, it's definitely more than proved its price point. I mean, 100%. I mean, I can't really say that, I mean, a $23 cigar is not a value cigar, but the value that you get in the cigar for $23, you're literally doing yourself a disservice if you walk past it in a humidor and buy something else. I mean, it like Michael says, I mean, being on the media side of this and being a cigar nerd, I mean, I've had the fortune to be able to smoke some of those cigars that are 3, 4, and 5 times the price point of this, and they're not lying. It holds up and actually definitely outsmokes a good number of those. So, it's a $50 experience for $23 if you look at it that way.
That's a good point.
That's certainly the way we've gone about trying to create it. We can't create the same experience for less money. So we're trying to make sure that we can deliver the best and then offer some value. Good night, Sanj.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a cigar that somebody can walk into a humidor and have no problem popping $23 down for, you've accomplished your mission.
And then we also that's also why we have Timeless. That's why we have Timeless and Metropolitan. I recognize it's not the same band, but it's the same artist. It's the same work. We've been able to compartmentalize what Metropolitan means, what Timeless means, and what Ferio Tego means. And they have different propositions. But man, they're all unique and they all over deliver. It just depends on what you want.
It's funny. We have a question here from Tom here. Is there a $2 Chuck equivalent in Michael's lineup over delivers on the low price?
$2 Chuck is an interesting analogy. So the early days of $2 Chuck was a non-vintage wine. But if you look at, so I'm not sure that I necessarily have a $2 Chuck Trader Joe equivalent. I do think we have Kirkland value, like Costco's wines, which are vintage, and some of them are actually quite tasty.
Dude,
and
lying.
Our Metropolitan starts at $7. Yeah, my buddy just mentioned
today.
The Metropolitan Habano is a Nicaraguan Puro. It is so flavorful and so rich. And, it's like $7 to $9, $7 to $10.
Right.
Delicious.
Yeah, it out punches a lot of cigars in its weight class, that's for sure.
And honestly, I would even say, if you light up, you're smoking an old Prestige, but the new Prestige Timeless or the Supreme, those are both 9 to 13, and
Yeah.
they're incredible.
Yeah, it's true, and we've talked a lot. We talked a lot about that during the unveiling of the list this year. There was a lot of good cigars that came in at a good price point that just really over delivered. Especially like another one like Micallef Black, $8
Very
for the
good cigar.
Toro, $7 for the Robusto. But I mean, there's cigars in that weight class that are going for $15, $16,
But
$12, and it's way better.
there are things that you can't necessarily achieve. For example, like we were talking earlier about Pinot Noir. Kevin was mentioning it. And it is very difficult to deliver a delicious value Pinot Noir. So Rhone, for example, you can get great value, but those grapes, they grow easier. Pinot Noir is one of the most emotional grapes you can grow. And so to create a Pinot Noir sub $20, you are going to have to sacrifice something. The same with Cabernet from Napa Valley. You can find value in Cabernet, but you will be hard pressed to find Napa Valley Floor Cabernet that is value, call it $12 to $20, um, in the way that you can find really delicious $12 to $20 value in Rhone or in Paso Robles in California. And I love finding value. I'm a consumer at the end of the day. I love finding those deals. But where value becomes relative is, where is the value in Napa Valley, for example? You're going to find value at $60 when you compare it to a $250 bottle. The relative delta in experience is probably closer. So your value in Napa may be 60. And that kind of goes back to Ferio Tego. $20 is not a value cigar. But for what it does, it is definitely value when you compare it to its peer group of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell is just on fire with the questions tonight. He must be. You know what it is, Mike? You're like one of his personal heroes, and unfortunately, because of scheduling issues, he's not able to be on the show full time anymore. So he made sure he came out in the comment section because I mean he's firing away. I think he even has a fourth one ready to go down here. I'm sorry. I want to make sure I ask them because I'll feel bad if I don't ask his questions for him because I know it.
Well, they're great questions too.
They are great questions, but I know that like I said, you're like a hero to him, so I can't leave him like hanging. You know what I mean? Hashtag ask Herklots. I like that. I like that too. If someone, I don't know why this thing keeps getting in my way and I can't read the.
I see it. Someone has never had wine, or is very new to it, wanted to start exploring it. All it has to offer. Where and how would you start that? How would you suggest them to start? It's a lot like cigars, and that is this notion that there is a starting point, in my opinion, is null and void, because it really depends what you've experienced to date. So let's say you don't drink wine and you've never smoked a cigar. You have two starting points, but we need to find where you are at this moment. You need to ask questions like, do you drink coffee? Yes or no? How do you drink it? If you drink coffee black, that gives a very clear understanding of a capacity for flavor that you already enjoy. If you drink spirits, that already gives a sense for what you like and what you don't, and gives you a really good place to start. And I recommend that you start the closest to where you are in a like thing. So if you drink coffee black, I would suggest you start with old world wines that are not fruit forward, that are either Bordeaux or Italy or old world, lower alcohol, more earth and less fruit. And I would also recommend that you start with cigars that are earthy, more Nicaragua, etc. If you if you're drinking Kahlua and Bailey's and Cosmopolitans and vodka cranberries, and you don't like whiskey, that creates a whole different capacity of flavor. If you don't like those flavors, then I would recommend you start with something white, or you start with something sparkling, and you enter the hobby that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first started drinking wine, I'm trying to think. I think the first, it's kind of, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. I think the first time I started drinking wine, I started off with white. I think that's where I mean,
That's where I started.
I had some red before, and when I was really younger, especially pre-21.
But we also started with cigars that were shade wrapper.
Mhm.
There's a notion that you start light and you work your way up. But
There is.
so many adults are discovering premium cigars later, or discovering wine later, like you, Kevin, right? So you already had a palate for cigars that was developed. You already have a
Hmm.
palate for spirits or other things that are developed. And so we have to meet you with wine where you are. And that's I think where the difference is, because once we meet you where you are, well, then you can start exploring based on a point of familiarity. It's when you say, I only drink peated Isla whiskeys like Lafroig and Lagavulin, and then I start you with champagne. We couldn't be further apart. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So you have to find the closest place to transition, and then once you're in that hobby, then start exploring that hobby.
I will say having the palate, the advanced palate for cigars made the entry and the exploring of the wine a lot easier than it was in the past when I had tried wines.
And
Because I mean,
here's
wines that
where
I
I'll
like now.
answer here's where I'll answer Mitchell's question even better. I've been in this industry 25 years on the cigar side, 20 of them in retail. And nothing made me happier or prouder as a tobacconist than to have someone come in and ask my expertise. It doesn't demonstrate that you don't know anything. It demonstrates that you're open enough to learn and that you want to learn. And so the the better way to answer Mitchell's question is find a local store or a local wine bar that has a reputable sommelier or a reputable salesperson, and tell them exactly the things that you like now and what you want to discover, because they probably have something open that they will taste you on. And then
Hmm.
once you taste something and can have a dialogue, you're off to the races. But this is a profession. Whether you're in the wine world or the cigar world, of course, it's a passionate pursuit, but it's a profession. So ask the professionals. Walk into a brick and mortar shop and talk to a tobacconist about cigars. Talk to a wine associate about wines. Walk into a restaurant and don't just order the one that's in the middle of the wine list. Ask the sommelier or your server for what they recommend based on what you like, and just tell them the things that you like. I like coffee black and I like whiskey. What wine would I like? They're going to know. They're going to make a recommendation. They're
Hmm.
going to taste you on something. That's how you enter the hobby. Don't guess, ask.
That's a great answer. I
Mitch,
mean, and,
Mitch,
and it is, the people that do it for a living are the ones that are going to help you the most. And if they're good at what they do, I mean, there's the occasion that you run into ones that just don't. But if they're good
Listen,
at what they
if
do,
don't be
if
they're
shy.
going
you
to
are
lead you in the right direction.
if you're making a living in an industry like wine or cigars or whiskey, you are passionate about what you do,
Hmm.
because obviously you've made a lot of crazy decisions in your life that have ended you up in these most wild of industries. So those are the people you ask because they're the ones who have been where you've been.
Well, I've always considered, guys like us, me, Matthew, Mitchell, on we're the media side of the industry. We're not in the manufacturing side of the industry, but we've also been, we seek out the best of the best. We want to try what's the latest. We critique, you know, we we value and everything else. And I've always considered us as and the aficionado crowd, like the true aficionados. I've always likened it like to the one percenters in the motorcycle world, where basically your life revolves around the cigar. So
Of course.
I totally
And,
understand where you're coming from.
and you fill your free time with it doing stuff like this. I mean, this is it's a huge endeavor to put on a show like this on a regular basis
Right.
and provide really meaningful content to people when you have other things that you have to do to provide for your families. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's very admirable. But that's why I'm saying that's why people watch this show, and that's why you should go to your retailers and go to your wine stores, and don't be afraid to ask what you think is a dumb question, because you're already sophisticated in the things that you like. You already use discretion every day with what you eat and what you drink and what you wear. So use that information to share with somebody more knowledgeable in the specific area of expertise that they have, and let them guide you.
And it's always good too to support your B&Ms and local stores and whatnot, especially the small business owners, because that's just a whole nother level, right there, that needs to happen.
Absolutely.
All right, I want to pause, Matthew, and find out where you are on the cigar.
I
You're smoking
am.
his.
I'm just about halfway. And so far it's been on the smoother side, a little nutty. I'm gonna
So if
say,
you're just joining, he's smoking a almost 10-year-old Timeless Prestige.
and creamy
I'm
cashew,
jealous.
creamy cashew. All
Yeah.
right, creamy cashew. That's the one that stands out the most. Little bit of, little bit of cinnamon. Very subtle. Not at first. Now it's coming in. Very subtle on the finish. A little bit of pepper in the back of the tongue, but nothing too much. Doesn't really take over. It's just kind of like a little tickle on the back, like, oh hey, just a
But
little extra flavor.
think of that blend new. That
Right.
blend new has a lot of obvious nuttiness, a lot of baking spice, which plays into your cinnamon,
Yep.
some pepper. And so what you're talking about is exactly what the aging process is, whether it's cigars or wine. It takes the things that are obvious, and it takes the things that are specific, and it rounds the edges out and brings them closer together. And
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
the way you're describing that blend makes total sense for 10 years of age.
Yeah. It's very clean. It's very clean. It has a nice flavor to it. It's smooth. It's clean. It's crisp. Um,
And Kevin, you're on Suma,
I'm on Suma.
and
And the same thing. I'm probably just slightly past halfway. I'm actually probably smoking a little fast because I'm just puffing
excited.
away, but excited. I mean, who doesn't love Michael Herklots, right? But nuttiness in here, a little bit of pepper. You have the baker spices. There's a little bit of stone fruit in here, and the what I always look for in a pairing when I pair a cigar with something is I want whatever I'm pairing it with. I want the cigar to be elevated, and I want the beverage to be elevated. And in the case with this Pinot, the Pinot makes the cigar better, and the cigar makes the Pinot better. So in sense, it's literally like a perfect pairing.
that's awesome.
The cigar allows you to taste the fruit forward of the wine,
Awesome.
and the fruitiness of the wine allows you to pull out a little bit, the little bit of the nuttiness and the baking spices and whatnot in the cigar, and it makes for a
What
it's
size are you smoking,
literally a
Kevin?
life-changing experience. I'm smoking the torpedo,
Yeah. To me, that
which
that
is
torpedo has a little bit more of the fudgy um, Nicaragua influence because there is more in it than some of the thinner
mhm,
sizes, and so that really gives this kind of in wine. The word is viscosity as it
mhm.
relates to the mouthfeel, and that cigar also has viscosity, particularly in that shape in the 60, and so to me that shape with that wine has got to be great.
Oh, it's outstanding, and I will say, I mean, I'm not a big ring fan by any stretch of the imagination, and I know when we shared the cigar with you in Ohio, when you had these, all you had was Gordos, and you said, if I give you a Gordo, will you smoke it? I'm like, yeah, I'll smoke it. Just like you're going to give me a cigar, I'm going to smoke it. And I got to say, the
It was
60 in
so
this
good.
cigar, if you're not a big ring guy, go freaking try it.
Yeah,
Because these guys busted their asses working on airflow and smokability of that cigar, and that thing freaking delivers like nobody's business.
and I'm about halfway into the Generoso, and with this old world wine, it's super earthy, and it actually, one of the things that I think is unique about Generoso is even though it's so earthy and more kind of old world in flavor, there is a creaminess to it.
Mm-hmm.
With Bordeaux, especially, it has a higher level of tannin, and so that can sometimes be drying, which is why it's so good with food. You typically drink a wine like this with steak because steak is fatty, and that causes you to salivate, and then you drink an older world wine, and it creates the dialogue between the fat and the tannin. This cigar is the fat, and so this cigar smokes like a steak and is responding with this wine much the way a steak would. I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
I want to take a break really quickly to talk about some news. Um, Maybe not a break, but I wanted to make sure that we touched on this, and a couple of I'll actually read a couple of things off the top. I won't really dive too deep into them. But our news is brought to you once again by Micallef Cigars, featuring Micallef Black, rated 91 at SmokinTabacco.com by that guy in the middle there. Micallef Black, it's a blackout. So it's almost time for PCA, Mike, as you know. Um, you know how this goes. You guys all start sending out your announcements, what you're bringing to the show. We've got a couple of those today. We also got some non-show related stories. So I'm gonna read a couple of headlines here. First of all, and I'm sure you guys both have seen some of the other announcements, but there's several Club Macanudo lounges opening up now that we've seen. I think there's New Orleans. Where's the other one? There was another one that we just put out another story on recently too. Where was that other one? I think we've gotten 3 like in the last Taipei. There's one or not New Orleans, but somewhere in Louisiana. There's one in Taipei, and then today we got another notice saying that they're opening one in Jakarta. I don't know how many are slated to open, but it seems to me like Club Macanudo, they're really expanding worldwide here. This is pretty interesting. United Cigars announced today that they will be finally releasing from Selected Tobacco the Atabey Humidor, which we saw at PCA in 22, and I think it was there last year in 23. That is officially going out to retailers now. We got that in today. Another one is Two Guys Smoke Shop. Speaking of our friends at the number 2guyscigars.com, some of these stores aren't up on the website yet, but they should be soon. They have announced that their New England Cigar Expo will return once again on September 27th and September 28th of this year in Windham, New Hampshire at Dreamers Ranch. I believe they're giving away like $30,000 in gold. I don't know if it's gold bars.
Oh wow!
But that's their so last year they gave away the cow, right? They gave away the whole cow with all the meat, all cut up, and which was pretty cool. If it might,
Did they give away a freezer with it?
Yeah, I think he had the
I
freezer.
don't know what
with
I
him.
would do with a whole cow at this
I
point.
know. Even if that's a lot of meat. Like
It's a lot of meat, bro.
Dude.
No, Michael, you like to party, right? So
I mean, talk
barbecue
about
at
a
Michael's
block
house
party.
every weekend.
That would have to be.
If I had that much meat, I'd probably just have a couple of cookouts and just try to like cook a bunch of it. I mean, that's a lot.
A cow, bro? I mean, that's a lot of.
Dude.
Come on.
I know. I'd have to. I'd be like, I'm not gonna eat this by myself. I'd have to have like a big cookout and be like, yo, let's get all this meat on the grill. I mean, yeah, I'd probably hang on to a couple of fillets and ribeyes for me. But
I'll tell you what.
hey.
Let me just say something about our friends at Two Guys.
Yeah.
Dave is one of the greatest innovators in our business, and he is. There are lots of legacy retailers that sometimes they get very comfortable and they get very proud of themselves, and then they phone it in. But Dave is not one of those guys, and he's always thinking outside of the box, and he's always delivering back to his customers. I mean, we were. I can think of a TAA 10 years ago when I was on the board leading panel discussions about how to improve the retail experience, and Dave would talk about all the things he does for his customers, not sales, the things he does for his customers, his show, his events, I just love it. So if he's given away a cow last year and gold this year, God bless him.
Did you do?
I mean, that is freaking cool as hell.
Did you ever
think of this? Didn't they give away a car one time or something?
Well,
like that?
I was just gonna say. So the previous iteration before the New England Cigar Expo was just the Two Guys Smoke Shop anniversary dinner, which Mike, I don't know if you ever did back in the day. And yeah, there was one year he gave away a tanker full of gas. He gave away a Hummer H2. He gave away a 1970, I can't remember the year, but like the old Smokey and the Bandit, like the Trans Am. Dude, yeah, he's giving away some good shit. I don't know if he's still
the products, the firecrackers. I mean, just all this. I have so much admiration for the guy. It's just great. If people thought the way he thought and pushed it and thought differently, that's the kind of stuff that keeps our industry moving.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you got to give it to Dave. He's been around a long time. He has done a lot of interesting things over the years. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to know Dave personally for a while now and learned a lot from him firsthand. Yeah, I mean, the guy, look, he knows. He's not afraid to throw shit on the wall and see what sticks, right? And he always seems to find something new and different, and it still works for him, man. I mean, all these years later, he's still doing his thing. You're right, Mike. I agree. You got to give it to him. A lot of respect there.
Listen,
it's ballsy to do that.
He was one of the originals to do this.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
It's true.
There's a lot of people putting out a lot of content online. He was one of the first to do it.
Yeah. No, it's true. He's really, he jumped on that podcast thing, nice and early. I was like, yeah, we should do this. And if I remember,
before it was called a podcast, bro.
If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. Maybe this wasn't him. I think he was one of the ones where, like, one of the first ones, very early ones, it talked about, like, we're going to do this, like, cigar show, podcast thing. And people were like, what the hell are you talking about? That's ridiculous. And, look what happened, So you got to...
He's done a handful of things that people thought were ridiculous and then copy.
Yeah. So you got to give it to him. He's paving the way.
He's great. I talked to him not that long ago.
Innovator.
He's great. Plus, he's from New England. I'm from New England. You're from New England. The best is from New England, bro. Come on.
That's right. I know. That's true. I know. It's so
true.
When
you think about it too, it's like everything that he does, it's for the customer experience. experiences for the people that do business with them. So, I mean, as a consumer, how can you not appreciate that and make you want to do more business with a guy?
Right.
When you are relentlessly customer first, you win.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
customer service is everything.
I know that we had a couple more questions, and we are getting somewhat towards the end of the show. So I'm gonna bring a couple more up, and then I think I'm gonna call it quits there. One question we did have was, ask Herklots, are you going to come out with a book of your experiences and legendary stories as it pertains to cigars and pairings?
I don't know. I got a lot of cigars to sell.
I could see you coming out with a book, though. I really could. I could see you.
What would it be?
It could be anything, honestly, and it would be a New York Times bestseller. Come on. Yeah. You got so many things you could talk about, and you know how to.
Here's the thing. Hold on. Here's the thing. The industry.
Here's the thing. There's having stories to tell, and then there's being able to tell the stories, and you have both. So, I mean, why wouldn't you? Not everyone can tell a story. There's people out there who have stories, but they don't know how to tell them. You can paint the canvas with the story. Come on.
All right.
It doesn't matter. You got enough.
I can see the HBO docu-series now.
I'll work on it. Yeah. It'll never happen because of our category, and that's the problem.
One man who dreamed to be a drummer turned into a tobacco man. The true story of Michael Herklots.
The sad ending of...
What could have been?
You can do anything you want to do and be anything you want to be. And that didn't work. Cigars.
You could work at a donut shop. Was it a donut shop?
You bet it was. The Baker's Dozen, bro.
Yeah.
In fact, the last time I was on Dave's show, I stayed at my parents' house in Connecticut, and I woke up crazy early. I drove to my old job. I picked up donuts and bagels from the Baker's Dozen, and then I drove the rest of the way, another 2.5 hours, to Dave's place, and Mr. Jonathan helped me unload bagels, coffee, and donuts from the Baker's Dozen to the studio audience at Cigar Authority.
Oh, that's awesome.
What a great name for a donut shop. The Baker's Dozen. I like that.
Well, we always gave a Baker's Dozen when you got a dozen.
Wow. Yeah, I have to try that spot. I haven't been down there yet. I have to say that I've been there.
If you go to Brooklyn, Connecticut, on Route 6, that was the shop I worked at.
Okay.
For you New Englanders.
New England. Yeah. We're a special breed
people
up
taking
here.
notes. People taking notes, there's going to be a quiz later.
Yeah, there is.
That would be good. We should do another show with some trivia.
Oh, yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah, that would actually be
go back and
awesome.
Watch the last 3 or 4, get some trivia, and then do some giveaways. What do you think?
I like that idea. We should do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Can you host it like you've hosted all these other great shows? Come on. You need to be the trivia master.
I've been screaming for like 6 days straight. I didn't talk from the end of the auction until the Great Smoke. I whispered and prayed that my voice would stay for Great Smoke.
I tuned in briefly. I was working that day, but I did tune in briefly, and you sounded great. You guys all looked great. Did Abe lose weight, or was that me? He was looking good.
Absolutely.
Abe's lost a lot of weight.
He's looking good. I mean, wow, good for him. Good for him. Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while, but I remember being like, damn, wow.
No, he looks great. The event was great, man. I really, if you did not watch The Great Smoke, if you go to Smokin's YouTube page, it's up there. And like I said earlier in the show, they're going to upload a redo from the hard drive, because for some reason, and everything was improved over prior years, some of the feed got glitchy with some of the satellite cameras, but the hard drive file is killer. the interviews were awesome. Guy Fieri, Chaz Palminteri, and we had some awesome interviews. So be on the lookout.
I definitely want to go back and watch it because it's like it sucks so bad to not be there. So it'd be neat to be able to go back and watch it and relive it.
Yeah, I want to go back and watch it. The whole thing is a blur.
I know Coop wasn't even supposed to be there, but then at the last minute, I heard that he
got a ride.
He got a ride from somebody he knows, and he made it. And look, it's Coop. He was just excited to spend more time in Miami. I mean, that's the only that's all he wanted.
I mean, it's a good show when you actually consider getting fired to go. So I was close, but I did the responsible thing and did the work trip as opposed to the cigar trip.
Yeah.
Smart.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's it's a trip I wish I could have made, but I couldn't really swing it right now. We got another question here from Tom. Ask Herklots, ever consider a lineup named after wine varietals? Chardonnay, Connie, Bordeaux, multi-country, non-puro, Cab Sauv, Nika ass kicker, sherry flavored.
I love the idea of it. I have two objections to it. And it's not a criticism to the idea because I really love the direction, but I've been around too long. The first objection is it feels gimmicky to me.
Ooh. Okay.
It's because when you use such literal descriptions, there is a expectation of a literal experience. And so that provides an opportunity for disappointment. If I call something Chardonnay and it doesn't taste like Chardonnay, I fail and I'm going to be criticized. But more importantly, those are specific experiences that are related to specific flavors. And in a post-FDA, non-flavored world, I would never want to give the illusion that our cigars are in any way enhanced, flavored, or targeted towards an audience that is not a handmade premium cigar audience. And that just gives me pause and makes me nervous. It feels a lot like vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, Chardonnay, Cabernet, and Pinot Noir. So as much as I love it, I would avoid it. But that's also why I talk so much about wine, especially with Elegancia, Generoso, and Suma, because it's so inspired by wine, and I really try and pay homage to the wine industry with my work. But it's too risky to call them with names like that because there's just way too much familiarity with those experiences that creates either an opportunity for disappointment or worse, an opportunity for regulation. And I don't want either one.
Okay, that's a fair
But
answer.
I really do love the idea.
Definitely fair.
And so, inspired by that idea, if you love Chardonnay or Sancerre or Riesling, go for Elegancia, or Sterling for that matter, and Timeless. If you like big reds, go for Generoso, go for Suma, go for Panamericana.
I like it.
And there you go.
I will say the relationship to wine is like, I guess, I mean, we've talked about it before, Michael, but I never really picked up on it until I really kind of sat and listened to what you were talking today with the Generoso and Elegancia, where, they're almost like an homage to how wine is done. So where you're not really going in every time and trying to recreate the exact thing. That gives me a whole new appreciation for those two blends.
By the way, I have to just say, I mean, I know we're cranking on time here, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but just looking at all the comments that are popping up here, I mean, Irving, I just saw Irving in Florida. Joe, I mean, I see, obviously, Barbara, that's she belongs to you. You belong to her. Let's be honest.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Pierre Ferrand is my buddy from New York. Carl, I've known Carl forever. He was checking in from Mr. J's, who's been a supporter from the beginning from Rhode Island.
Yeah.
You know, like seeing all these names pop up. Chad, I just saw. It's Sterling. I met him in Biloxi. He drove like 2 hours to come to an event, and we met in Biloxi, Mississippi. This has been the craziest 2 years of my career. 25 years doing this.
Right.
And I know I haven't written a book yet, and maybe I will, but I often think of my life and my career in chapters. And, chapter 1 was really a preface more than anything, which was my time in Boston. The real chapter 1 was my almost 10 years with Davidoff. My chapter 2 was my almost 10 years with Nat Sherman. And now chapter 3, we're only 2.5 pages in the 2.5 years with Ferio Tego. But to see so many familiar names of people that I've met over the last 25 years, never mind just the last 2 or 3 years, is amazing. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watching and commenting and participating. Sanj was on earlier. I've known Sanj for 10, 12 years. I'm just so grateful for people genuinely rooting for our success.
Yeah.
25 years or not, we're a new brand and we're a new business and we're a new company. And 2.5 years in is not a lot of time in. And there's way more ahead of us than there is behind us, despite time served. So the opportunity you guys are giving me to be on this show and talk wine and cigars and to have people chime in and ask questions, I'm just so grateful for it. And I wanted to make sure I said that before we ended.
No, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate that, Michael. We love you, brother.
Yeah, we're glad
you're
here.
I love you guys more.
I know you had a crazy week, so I appreciate you still being able up to doing the show tonight. It's quite a week you've had. I'll give you that. But that's what you do, man. You make it look easy.
Listen, it's an insane schedule, right? Let's face it, it's insane. And I tell my family all the time, I love them more than anything. There is nowhere I would rather be than home. But if you see a picture of me out, you're going to see a smile on my face because I'm so happy doing what I'm doing with people I love all over the country and frankly in other countries. That it's such a blessing to be able to do it. And although I would rather be home and with my family and spending time with them, I'm working really hard on trying to find that balance because being out on the road and hitting stores around the country and doing festivals in Dominican and festivals in Florida and being able to meet, Saturday, 2,500 people, Friday, 1,000 people, Thursday, 1,000 different people. There's just nothing like it. I wanted to be a musician because I wanted to go on tour and travel and perform and share my work. I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm just sharing different work, but it comes from the same place.
Yeah. I mean, it's what is it? I just lost it. Damn it. Oh. If I was to describe you in your story, right? Do you remember like just the title, right? Not a synopsis, just the title. You remember The Legend of Ron Burgundy? It's the legend of Michael Herklots. And that story in itself, even if it ended now, before the story's over, I mean, that's still a hell of a fucking story.
God forbid, bro. Let's hope it doesn't end now and I'm drinking warm milk in a phone booth.
You can't.
You're crying about your lost dog.
Sumo was a bad choice. No, man, we're making good choices.
Wow.
We're making good
Oh, that
choices.
was
This
awesome.
cigar is horrible, but we made too many.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
What is it? 60% of the time, 60% of the time, it tastes good. 100% of the time.
That doesn't make any sense.
Ferio Tego.
Boy, that escalated quickly. Anyway,
San Diego.
which in German means a whale's vagina.
Vagina.
Actually, I don't think so. Do you play the jazz flute?
Man, that is actually my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Right?
I could totally see Michael rocking the jazz flute. Too.
I can. That's why I'm like, I could see him doing it.
Well,
I feel
was
like he
jazz
secretly
drums.
does, but he won't let anybody know.
I don't. I play drums, but I have played drums with Yaz flute, and it's great.
Yeah. You know, one of these shows, we should just have you on doing like an intimate jazz set, but then like in between songs, we stop when we talk about, you know, all this stuff that we've talked about here tonight. And then you're like, I'm going to go into the next one. You just play like, you know, we'll get someone else maybe to play with you.
I can assure you that will be the least viewed live show of any show you've ever done.
You know, wait a minute. You know what would be cool is a Michael Herklots and Nick Perdomo drum battle.
Oof. Wow.
That might be the most viewed show.
That
would
actually
that would be epic.
That actually
Rocky
is a
plays
good
drums.
idea. Rocky plays drums too? Oh, I didn't know that.
Ernesto Perez Carrillo plays drums.
Does everybody play drums? Jesus. Who else plays drums?
Anyone who has any talent. A lot of drummers. A lot of musicians.
In the business.
Which is not surprising. And by the way, the same in the wine business. Some of my best friends in the wine world are musicians and actors. And that's because when you're in pursuit of that thing, art, music, acting, it's so full throttle. But you have to find something to help support that endeavor. And so many times, artists find new callings in pursuit of plan A. They don't fall back to plan B. They discover a new plan A. And I don't consider that failure. I consider that progress and development as an artist. And I can't tell you how many friends of mine, one of my best friends in the wine business was a playwright. Another guy, and his name is Tommy Gannon. He was an incredible playwright. And he's a monster in the wine world now. Another buddy of mine's a winemaker, Chris Carpenter. He makes some of the most impressive Napa Cabernets, Cardinal, La Coya, La Joda. He's a musician, like a real musician. But he's one of the greatest winemakers in Napa Valley, respected up and down. And we've talked about it. It's an interesting dynamic when you discover something you love as much that feeds the same place in your soul and allows you to speak as an artist using a different medium. And for wine, that's Chris's world. For cigars, that's my world. But it feels exactly the same to me. Exactly
What a great
the same.
parallel.
Like I see you smoking. You're both enjoying my work. You're both listening to my songs. That's an artist's dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm past the band now on this cigar, and it's still, I mean, man, it's great. I mean, getting towards that final third, and it doesn't have that richness or that heaviness that you normally get in a final third. It's still like,
it should have the body, it just doesn't have the bite.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. It's fantastic. I mean, granted, yeah, this has got some age on it, but this is one of the best cigars I've ever smoked. I mean, really, this
Now I gotta dig.
awesome.
I know I've got a couple of those around here. I just gotta find them.
I've held on to
You
this
guys really
cigar
have to
for.
organize your collections here. You guys are losing more cigars than you're smoking.
I know that's the problem when you have too many.
It's bad. I dig through my collection. It's like, wow, I don't remember buying those.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I had this one, and I might have one more. I still hope I have the other one. But yeah, man, I smoked it, and I'm so glad I did. It's so good. This is delicious. I've been holding on to this cigar forever, and I don't know. It was it was like one of those cigars where I'm like, when am I gonna smoke it? When am I gonna smoke it? And then tonight I said, fuck it, I'm doing it right now.
I'm so glad you did. It's
Me
really,
too.
it's an important part of the process. And I'll tell you, my favorite time to smoke my trophies is first thing on a random day. In my old days when I used to commute to New York City, that's when I would pull out a trophy. Because I had an hour and 20 minutes stuck in traffic that I just wanted to put my fist through the windshield because 26 miles should not take an hour and 40 minutes. But an hour and 40 minutes to enjoy something that I've waited 9 years to light up, uninterrupted. Man, it's what better way to start your day than with a trophy like that.
Well, if everybody would do that, we'd have no road rage.
And the other thing too is you have the undivided attention. You get no other distractions. You get nobody with you. You get, you're not in the lounge. You're not, at work. You're in the car by yourself, uninterrupted, no distractions, and you can actually just focus on it too. And that's the other thing is, when you have a good cigar, you want to smoke that cigar and you want to focus on it. You want to really taste it. You want to feel it. You want to smell it. You want to get all of it. You don't want to just light it like it's a secondary. And we've all done it, right? We've all been doing things and we light a cigar and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, and you're enjoying it, but you're not really paying attention.
But it's the same with wine too, Matt.
Yeah.
Like I'll never. 2 years ago, we were at our neighbor's house, and our kids were in the pool, and we were hanging out. And it was getting late, and everyone was getting hungry. And so my buddy said, I got burgers and dogs. I'll just throw them on the grill. I said, great. I'll get wine. And he's a big wine guy. And I came home and I got a bottle of Schrader Cabernet, which is it is the trophy of trophies of Napa Cab. They have more 100 points by Spectator and Parker than any Napa Cab in history.
Yeah.
And so I grabbed the bottle and brought it over. My buddy was like, what are you doing? We're literally eating like frozen Costco hamburgers and hot dogs. And I thought, well, there's 4 of us. We're each going to have like a little more than a glass. Love it. And then we'll go back to drinking beer. But like, why not? If there's 4 of us and we can love this bottle right now, why wouldn't we do it? And we did. We decanted a monster bottle, 100-point Schrader Cabernet in his backyard in plastic cups with burgers.
That reminds me of a very similar situation I had with Carney. It was one time he came over the house for a few days and he showed up and we were grilling. We were grilling like steaks and some other shit, but he showed up and he had like Austin Hope and he had some BV Vineyard and he had some Stag's Leap wine cellars from the Cask 23 Club, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then we went to Total Wine, and for anyone who knows the story about the Titus cab that we bought, we went to the
by the way, if you do enjoy Ferio Tego, they are available at Total Wine as well. If you can't find them at Two Guys Smoke Shops.
That's very true. But anyone who knows Total Wine, you know how they have like the glass vault at the front with all the really nice wine? And Carney was just over there just doing the, what am I going to buy? And I'm like, are we getting something out of here? Oh, yeah. And the guy comes over and he's like, do you need assistance, sir? And he's like, yeah. I'm thinking about the 2-liter of Dunn. And he's like, oh, excellent choice. And the guy goes to get the key and he opens the door and he goes, wait. I'm going to do the 3-liter of Titus. And he looked at me and he was like, yeah, we're going 3 liters. And I was like, who's drinking that? like, we're grilling steaks on the grill. Oh, we'll finish it. Don't worry. And we did. We finished it at 3 in the morning. We opened that bottle at like 6:45, almost 7 o'clock. Like 3 a.m, me and Carney poured out the last 2 glasses, and we finished that bottle.
It's worth it, man. But we're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah.
I saw something this morning when I woke up, funny enough. And it was on Instagram, and he said, if you offered someone $10 million, what would they say? If I offered you $10 million, Matthew, what would you say? It's yours.
Well, first of all, I'd be like, why? What's this for?
$10 million.
No
Yes
questions
or no?
asked. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't say yeah?
Yes. But you can't wake up tomorrow. You're done.
Yeah, I'd probably say no.
Right. And that's what every morning is. Every morning is worth more than $10 million. So why wouldn't you crack open the bottle, cut and light the cigar? If every morning is worth more than 10 million, you got to smoke the trophies. You have to open the dusties. Make the best meal you can make. We're not guaranteed every day. So if you wake up, you got to make the best of it. You know, you can't complain about all the little shit and save this for another day. We're not guaranteed another day.
Damn, that is a great way to look at life. That should be the only way people look at life.
I agree. And the older I get, the more and more I kind of identify with that, and
especially as a parent, bro.
I know.
Well, that hits home. That hits home for me big time too, as a cancer survivor. So.
Yeah, and you too. Yeah, of course. But yeah, especially as a parent, you learn more of that every day. You're like, you know what? It starts to change you, and I've definitely started to feel that for sure. But hey, guys, listen, we are getting towards the end of the show here. I do got to wrap this up soon, so I just want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone who's here tonight on the show. Michael, thank you obviously for your time. Like I said, I know you had a busy week, but thank you for still being here tonight. This was awesome, a lot of fun. Kevin, it's always good to see you. And for everyone at home who's watching and listening along, thank you for watching and supporting us. We appreciate it. We couldn't do what we do without you. And
can I ask a favor?
Absolutely, anything you need.
If you're still on.
I'm still on.
No, I know you're on.
Oh.
But for the people who are watching, or for anyone who watches this after, if you're at this moment, take a picture of your screen with whatever you're smoking and post it. And make sure you tag everybody on your screen, tag what you're smoking, tag where you are, and amplify the stuff that you love. Because Smokin Tabacco needs more support. Ferio Tego needs more support. And the wider you cast that net, the more support we get. So if you love the show, and if you love what you're smoking, you love what you're drinking, take a picture of your bottle, take a picture of your cigar, take a picture of your screen, and just tag it on your stories and put it out there and let people know how much you love it. Because if you let people know how much you love it, you give them permission to love it too. And we all need that.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael. That is awesome.
Yes, Michael, thank you very much for that. It's a great idea and very kind of you to say. So thank you very much. It's a nice little tidbit. And you know what? I'm not even going to say anything else. I'm going to end the show with that. So,
wait a minute. I got to take a picture. Hold on.
Oh, okay. All right. Let Michael
right
take his picture. Well, while you do that, don't forget to head over to...
I got to do the same thing.
Don't forget to head over to SmokinTabacco.com for more news, reviews, and updates from the cigar industry. You can check out all of our past episodes under our podcast tab for both this show and the Spare Notes show. You can check out all the other times that Michael's been on the show and has, graced us with his intelligence and his wonderful presence that we always appreciate. He shares with us.
And there may be a trivia show coming up soon.
I know that is something that we should look into. So you might be seeing that too. And we'll do it nice. We'll do it real nice. But I think that's going to be our show for this week, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you once again to everybody. Thank you. I appreciate it. And
cheers.
Thank you everybody for watching.
And My glass is empty now, but cheers. And we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.